Welcome to an episode of Marketing for Your Boring Business, helping your message get seen in a cluttered newsfeed. Today, I'm super stoked because I have Shan, aka Shan the Man, on the show today, talking about how we can find our voice in social media. Shannon has spent the last 16 years in Arizona doing radio for 98 KUPD. Shannon's mission is to teach people how to be the experience instead of the witness of their experience. The core of his discipline of this experience is creating bigger than life visual experiences online through Facebook and Instagram while translating that discipline into real life experiences. Welcome to the show, Shannon. I'm so
Hi,
excited.
Desiree. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So, what do we need to know from you, the radio expert, about finding our voice in social media?
Well, I guess it just all depends on where you want to start. Like, how do you want to start finding your voice? I mean, that should be the first question. That's kind of a broad brush question to ask because there really has to start with a purpose. And what's the purpose of finding your voice in social media? And it should be a purpose actually really in your life and what you want to accomplish in your own life and how that translates over into social media.
Deep.
So yeah, it really starts with purpose. You got to know about purpose first before you go into anything that has to deal with a social aspect, I believe.
Yeah, no. So I think that it's probably the best thing to start with, like, your identifying your personal mission and objectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
How would you encourage someone to dissect into figuring out what that looks like?
I get asked this question quite a bit, and a lot of people, they'll either take it or they leave it just because they don't want to face it. And what I'm talking about is knowing themselves the most, knowing themselves the best. How well do you know yourself? There's a word that's thrown around in social media a lot that's a buzzword that you hear all the time. It's called authenticity. And if you're not authentic and you're not being transparent, you're not sharing the best piece of you. And in my 17 years of being in radio, I need to update that on my bio, but in my 17 years in radio, the one thing that I have learned is that I have to be me. And that means not mincing who I am at any turn. A good example of this was one time I watched an interview with Dave Grohl, and Anderson Cooper was interviewing him, and Dave was throwing the F-bomb around and just kept cussing on camera. And Anderson had said, Dave, this is a family show. We can't do that. Like, this is a family show and this 60 minutes. And Dave just said, I got to be me. I've got to be who I am. So when you translate that and talk about how does this work on social media and how do you find your voice, you have to find your voice where you are A, being yourself, but B, you are giving your community something that they can latch onto that benefits them. It could be if you're, I guess, I don't know what type of audience that you're targeting. Maybe it's business owners, but if it's business owners, you're targeting people that need help and you want to give them encouragement and you want to give them the ability to believe that they can build either, it could be a six-figure business or it could be build a successful online business. And it has to be given out in tips or help in encouragement, showing your true self. There's a difference between being like a joker and a fool. And if you could be like just a slight joker, people like that. They like humor. But if you're a fool online all the time, people figure that out. They figure it out 100% of the time. If you can find the one thing that will help your audience appreciate you for who you are, then they start following what you do. They follow your journey. They follow what your thoughts and beliefs are all about. And from that point forward, you can continue to put more of that out into the world. and they start to follow what you do. They start to follow how you think. And in today's world where there's so much as far as vitriol between party and between country and between business and between ideologies, that you are going to find people that don't agree with what you have to say. And that's okay, because as I learned years ago, that's not my audience. In radio, they would say, that's not your listener. It's not the person that you want listening to you. You want the person that's listening to you. So you don't have to please everyone. You just have to please the ones that will believe in what you believe in.
So how much bridging or similarity or that kind of idea should be used when we're talking the difference between like your personal profile, so like, me, Desiree, versus what my business is about, which is all on social media. Obviously, when you're the face of your brand, which most of, I'm sure my listeners are, when they're like the doctor, the dentist, the chiropractor, the roofer, the guy that answers the phone, how much of that do you think should be the same or similar? Or should there be maybe a different tone for that brand page versus the profile page?
I don't like to compartmentalize who I am. Because when you compartmentalize, it's almost as though you're saying to your audience, well, I hold one standard here, but then I hold a different standard here, and my messages are now mixed. And so I prefer, for years, people have said, well, you just need to start a website that is the name of your brand. And I'm like, no, because my brand is me. That's what it is. Like, my biggest thing when it comes to my community is that I work underneath the 98 KUPD brand, but my brand, the Shan Man brand, it's me. And what falls underneath Shan Man is that Shan Man knows how to do radio. He knows how to interview rock stars. He knows how to podcast. He knows how to edit podcasts. He knows social media. I know all of these things. And that's part of my brand. The one thing I focus on, though, is a radio personality. That's who I am. But if you want to know more about me, you learn about that on my website. You learn about that through my social media. You learn all of those things. You learn that I can joke. I have no problem sharing out or resharing out posts from that. I don't know if you've seen the account. It's called F Jerry. And it's like, it shares just memes, all these memes, these hilarious memes. And some of these memes they're hilarious in my eyes because they speak the truth about what everyday life is. And I don't have a problem sharing that out because people relate to it. And if I'm not relatable to my audience, then they're not going to be relatable to what I'm offering, whether that be entertainment or education. That's just the end of it. I mean, I don't know how else to boil it down, is that if I'm not being my true self, knowing that I have a sense of humor, but I also have all this knowledge that I've gained over the years, if you can't accept that, then that's someone I don't want to be in a part of my tribe.
Truth. Lots of truth there.
Yeah.
So besides being ourselves in social media, which is obviously, the number one rule. And I love how you talk about how your brand and your brand and yourself are kind of essentially the same thing. They're going to shine through. They're going to just be a part of who you are and what your brand's about. So it's important to make sure that shines through, because that's what's going to make it relatable and believable. No one wants you stuffy and serious all the time. Right. But what is it that you think for talking to your avatar? Like, where do you think that changes, or does that change, or how do you identify who your avatar is based on who you are with your voice and what you're trying to say, what message you've got?
So repeat the question again, because there was a couple points that I wanted to make, but what's the core of that question?
So the core of the question is, how do we identify who our avatar is based on our voice?
The avatar, really, when you look at the avatar, I kind of look at the avatar, and I learned this while I was being coached by someone about a year ago, and went through their coaching program, and she talked about, you need to define, she called it a lifer. You find your lifer. You can call it an avatar, you can call it your key core audience, but I call it the lifer. And the lifer is it's the person that's like you. Because have you ever run into it's like this: to identify your avatar is someone who's like you, who is traveling the road that you've traveled already, right? So you've traveled the road and you found the success, and it took you hours and weeks and months and years of discipline to figure out how to do what you do. And when you go and you're looking for that audience, who are you looking for? You're looking for you, the person who was at the beginning of the journey. Because when you talk to that person, if you ever gone to a conference or you ever gone to an event, and then you talk to someone and then you say, yeah, I was building an email marketing funnel, and I was using lead pages and all this. And they're like, oh my God, I was using lead pages too. And they get so excited, and you guys have so much in common that you might be just a little bit ahead of the game in terms of where they are in their journey. And so that's who you're trying to help. That's who you're trying to serve. That's who you're trying to bring with you to become your lifer.
I love that. Find your lifer. Sounds a little like a dating website, but it's a good way to look at it.
I mean, that's how, my coach, her name is Shalene Johnson. She said that's what it should be like. It should be like you are dating someone, because that's what it is. It's your lifer. That's the person that you want to bring on the journey with you for the rest of your life. Yeah,
no, that's awesome. So be yourself, find someone like you to talk to. I have all this knowledge, all this information, all these things. I just want to gush at people. How do I dissect that down into small, processable chunks in social space?
In social space, I don't post every day on social. I really don't. And you've seen this. I don't post every day, but when I do, you see that I get, I might get 100 likes. I might get 70 comments. I might start a Facebook Live, and I might get, and this is really all debatable when it comes down to like 1,000 views, because it's all based on 3-second views. But I noticed that the engagement is in small chunks. It's in showing up for them, whether it's every day or every other day, but showing up. So to me, when you show up every day and you're showing up in sizable chunks to become noticed on social media, is that I will show up in 3 ways. First, I'll show up by making a post, and that post might be a photo of a sunset here in Arizona. You lived in Arizona, and you know how beautiful the sunsets are here, right?
They're memorable, and I miss them very much.
Right. So you know how beautiful they are. And part of that, where we're talking about chunking it out, is I took it upon myself to download an app called Snapseed, learned how to use the app, because you can learn how to use just about anything these days in the help menu. And I learned how to edit photos, and I learned how to edit these, what I consider for myself, amazing amateur sunset photos. They're nothing like what I've seen with professional, but I start posting these out and appreciating the beauty of what Arizona has to offer, because there is another side of me that believes in the beauty. So I show up in one way. I show up in a post. The other way I show up is, if I don't post the next day, I'm inside everyone's comments, and I'm commenting on everyone else's comments, and I'm showing up, and I'm becoming, and I'm sharing who I am. I'm sharing either through jokes, I'm sharing through advice, I'm sharing through desired wisdom I'm looking for from someone, or vice versa. I'm trying to be the experience for everyone. That's what my podcast is all about, is about becoming the experience, so that when someone walks up to you and says, Desiree is amazing, like, I love talking to her because It's nothing that you did anything special other than become yourself, because you are becoming the experience for everyone else. You were sharing knowledge, wisdom, empathy, grace. You were sharing all of these small little chunks by just showing up every day. And then the third way I show up is on a Facebook Live, so they can actually see it. They can actually see that what I talk about is what I believe in. So those are really the three things that I follow every day.
Those are great. I love how you talk about showing up, and I think that that's a huge part and a huge missing piece that a lot of professionals who are getting into social media just don't kind of understand, is that you got to show up, you got to be present, you have to comment, you have to engage. You can't just post something and expect the phone to start ringing in most cases. So I love that.
I think the hardest part, just if I can expand on that a little bit, is that the hardest part about showing up is the process of starting. And that's it. It's the process of starting. And you don't get anywhere if you don't start. You don't get anywhere if you don't start building a habit. This is something that I believe in really big on. There's an Audible program that I would recommend that everyone listen to, called The Power of Ambition by Jim Rohn. And he talks about, and I'll tell you which chapter it is. It's chapter 5, because I listen to chapter 5 almost every day. And that chapter 5 is about building habits, building a daily discipline of doing something, building a discipline that allows you to learn and grow and become better. So if you're someone who's on social media and you do not understand Instagram whatsoever, show up. Even if you're just thumbing through photos, you're going through the explore menu, show up. Start commenting. Look at different pictures. Search out hashtags. Search out just words of things that you are interested in. Maybe it's about cats. Maybe it's about fitness. Maybe it's about the paleo diet. But show up, build a habit to help yourself learn. But I also believe by building that habit and building a daily habit, you have to focus on yourself every day. So to build one daily habit, like being on social media, because there can be too much of a good thing. You can be doing too much of social media to burn yourself out. You have to give yourself the break to not be on social media. So it's a fine line and a balance that you have to figure out on your own. I personally find that balance with exercise and nutrition every day. It's funny because I have never read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and most entrepreneurs have. But at this stage in my life, and after listening to the Jim Rohn stuff, I now realize that I only work 4 hours a day, because it's not about the fact of being busy to be busy. It's the fact about being busy to be productive. And I'm being productive in my 4 hours. So just like before this call we got on, I was at the gym. Prior to that, I had gotten up early. I had gotten up early because I was up late. I had gotten up about 11 o'clock. I work nights, and I make time for myself, because if I don't do these things for myself, they don't show up on social media at all. They don't whatsoever. So the habits that I build daily work into my habits on my social media every day. And that could be editing a photo. It could be a Facebook Live. It could be sharing a meme. It could be sharing an insightful post. It could be sharing any type of photo, or it could be sharing a meetup. I show up every day because then that's what people want to see. I think we have a common friend, Yelly Akenblit. That woman
She's
shows
been
up
on the show.
Yeah, she shows up every single day. Like, I had this professional crush on Yelly because of how she shows up every single day.
I think everyone has a crush on Gelly, but
yeah,
she's super wonderful. But yeah, no, showing up every day, that sounds like a good theme for life in general and for all aspects of business. But I love how we can apply that to your voice with social media, because it really is just kind of like, you just got to be there.
Yeah.
And people just forget that, and it's so frustrating.
Finding your voice can be it can be a very overwhelming feeling, because you're like, I don't have a voice. I don't know what my voice is. And there are people, I get asked this question on my YouTube channel a bit. And people say, I don't know how to start a podcast because they're talking about voice in the sense of sonically sounding like they just can't do it, but also in the terms of finding your voice, finding your passion, finding your purpose, finding how you can deliver your message. And they're like, I just don't know what I want to talk about. And then I try to relate to them and say, imagine you went to a bar or you went to a restaurant and you were sitting with your friends and you talked about the thing that you were most passionate about. How long do you think you could talk about that thing? And they're like, oh, all night. That's your voice. That's what you want to talk about. Talk about that. Because if you feel you got to put yourself in a box according to what the world is telling you to do, you're doing it wrong. You got to do it because you're doing it for yourself. That is what makes you more unique than the world around you, because they're telling you how to play their game. You're saying, no, I'm playing it the way I want to I play it. You will experience your voice through failures and accomplishments and triumphs and tragedies. That's how you find your voice. If you are not failing, you are not succeeding. So just remember that you have to find your voice through the struggles, through the pain, through the failure, because if you want to get to that level where you are starting your online business, or you're trying to leverage your current business with Facebook ads, you're going to have to spend money on Facebook and not get a return on it to know what you need to do next time. That's all you need to do. So to find that voice, you got to fail. If a joke doesn't work online, where you're talking about being out with a friend, don't post that anymore. Find your voice by experimenting, because you won't know unless you experiment.
Awesome. So is there anything else you think that's left? So we talked about, figuring out, you have to know who you are, you have to know who we're talking to, and how to dissect it into small chunks. Do you have any extra tips or anything like that for, making sure that content's getting seen and heard and commented on?
As for commenting, like if we're going to talk about technical, I guess, acuity to getting more comments on your posts, it's that you have to show up in your own post too. Like you just can't post something out and then expect everyone to comment. And I understand that this happens because I've started a million different Facebook pages, and you started for the first time, you posted something out and no one likes it. And you're like, that sucks. You're like, God, how do I get more people on this? You have to remember that Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those things, those can be built organically, but you have to build your community by participating and showing up and commenting on their stuff. Because if you're not commenting on their stuff, they will not reciprocate and comment back. My big thing about being in radio, and the thing that I have this core audience of listeners who love what I do. I could sneeze, gross. I could do anything that's just completely disgusting and they'll love it. But I don't do that. I don't. I could do anything I want, but they'll love it because they know that that's not who I really am. They know maybe I'm just doing it for a laugh. But they know that I'm always willing to help, and I will show up and I will help them, and I will give them the encouragement, not advice. I'll give them encouragement to try better and try harder the next time, because not everyone is at a level where they'll try hard every day. And I don't believe that you should try hard every day. You should try hard, but not overdo it. You should push yourself to the limit, but don't overdo it. So finding your voice and commenting in comments and getting more comments inside of Facebook all requires you actually having to be a human and socializing. It's no different than going out and meeting people out at a conference and having to insert and inject yourself into the conversation and say, hi, my name's Shannon. Who are you? And they're like, oh, my name's John. Oh, John, what do you do? I work for a marketing firm, out of Payson, Arizona. Oh, really? What do you do? And then the conversation just kind of goes from there. It's now easier on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter because they put all their information in the bio. So you like, and all their life is in pictures. And you're like, well, 90% of the work is done. I just now need to befriend this person. I need to provide value to them. How am I helping their lives? So that's kind of how I look at that. I hope that answers your question.
It does. It's perfect. I think we could just sum this all up as show up, be human.
Yeah.
Done.
That's it. Yeah. It doesn't there's no magic pill. I'll tell you one thing. When I first started, you and I have known each other for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been down many paths of failure. I started out, if I can share this quick story
go ahead.
Really help nail it down for your listeners. When I first started, I think we met because I was teaching people how to use Google Plus.
Google Plus master. That was the goal.
That was the goal, was to teach people how to use Google Plus. Well, where's Google Plus now? It's not really anywhere these days, right?
No.
It exists, but it's not really out there anymore, right?
No.
That was like my first experience in success and in failure. Success because I sold a course I didn't even know. I just sold a course for like $100, and I got 12 people, and I made $1,200 in like an hour. And I was like, what? Mind blown. And that blew my mind. Then Google Plus went away, and I was like, but everyone associated me with audio because they knew I was in radio. And I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing to do these other things. What I didn't realize is that I was doing the things that were hard, that made it hard for me to reach the next level, as opposed to doing the things that are easy for me. I just had to work hard at them. That's all. So do the thing that's easy. You just got to work hard at doing them. So if it's social media and you're not good at social media, take a class on it. Learn how to utilize these platforms, because they are like so powerful beyond measure that if you're not utilizing it, you're giving up. You're giving up, but you're not failing. You're just giving up. So don't give up. Fail over, fail, and then find your way. If we fast forward to now, where I am now, my website has dramatically changed from what it used to look like. I used to be on a WordPress site. I'm no longer on WordPress. I have stepped up the game. I have stepped up my investment in website development. In terms of my website platform. So take the time to invest in how you are finding your own voice on social media. Find yourself, be more, I'm not going to sit here and say, be more outgoing. Be who you are, but you will have to realize that you will have to put yourself out there even more if you want to get recognized and noticed even more.
Those are good words, I think, for us to end on today, Shannon. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with us about what we need to know to find our voice. How can people become part of your tribe?
You can head on over to theshanman.com. I offer podcast editing, podcast coaching. But if you just you want to find out how to start a podcast, I have a couple opt-ins up there. It's real quick. It's simple. It's called Quick Start Guide to Starting Your Podcast. And I will give you 4 simple tips to learn in 15 minutes. And you're pretty much on your way to starting your own podcast.
And for what it's worth, I am on that list. That's how I got started. So,
I'm glad.
So more people you're helping.
You'll be getting an email from me.
I get lots of emails from you. I've been on it for a few months actually. So, but it's super informative and super helpful and super insightful. So awesome. Well, thank you again so much for being on the show, Shannon. And to everybody out there, until next time, I'll see you soon.